Oh, do you have a? Oh, I got to start doing opening narrations again. Do you have that anywhere? I can put that in the chat if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to because I didn't I know some of it, but
Well, I certainly didn't expect you to memorize it. That
well,
would be
there's
insane.
well, no, I'm just saying the part I know is because of how how it figures into the who goes to the Twilight Zone.
Okay. Oh, right, right.
But
And
when
do
you're
you
ready.
do you want the closing narration? But that's kind of up to you, I guess.
No, I'm good with just the beginning. I don't want to stray too far from our template.
Sometimes we have people and folks that want to go with the closing. So, have you
Okay.
ever you've done the closing before? Yeah, because you like to go the narration for if they went to the Twilight Zone or not, right? So, I think we've done the
Exactly.
closing a few times, but
It
I
does. That's true.
it's in a tab. I can bring it up if I need to. So,
All right. Well,
um,
if you're ready, I'll go ahead with this opening.
oh, I'll open the show, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm looking at it. You ready?
Oh no, I'm gonna I'll do the trivia and then have you do it. It's been a
Oh,
while.
okay.
Yeah, been a while since we
Okay,
did these.
cool. Yeah. Okay.
Welcome to Time Enough Podcast, where we go through all of the episodes of the Twilight Zone. We found ourselves in a new zone. Is a different Twilight Zone. It's a 2019 Twilight Zone, the Jordan Peele zone if you want. So we're starting a whole new thing. As always, this is Matt here. Over there, coming in from Gonzoriffic, Andrew Shearer, howdy.
Hey, what's up?
I feel like you're the guy that has to be on like, square one of these shows.
Well, I was happy that you asked me, because I'm a big fan of this particular series.
Yeah. Also, just both of us have a lot of history performing. You performing, you still trying to make things, and how much do
Hmm.
you? Well, we're gonna get into it with this episode. I feel like it pertains to things we've done and do and probably will do in the future a lot as well.
Yeah,
So,
we've just at this point we've got uh, just a bulk of creative endeavors behind us.
but yeah, this is the comedian, of course. I think I said that already. But where did you? I guess you probably got on board of the show like when it was airing.
Oh yeah, immediately. Yeah. Well, Jordan Peele's was quickly became he wasn't really as much on my radar when he was on Comedy Central just because every show that they tried to start that was not the Dave Chappelle show was just not Chappelle's show, and we all kind of knew it. So I didn't get on board with Mind of Mencia and I didn't get on board with Key and Peele either. But when Get Out was released, I said, "This is the guy. This is Peele from Key and Peele." And the more kind of press he was doing, the more I realized he's like a dyed in the wool horror movie fan. So I was really excited about Get Out, and I ended up seeing it like 5 times. I just thought, the first time you go, it's just like, did that just even happen? You know what I mean? And so by the time the news came out that he was doing Twilight Zone, I think Us, which is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and definitely my favorite by Peele, I believe it had already come out. And so, because I want to say that was 2016 or no, 2019 maybe, because
That
Nope
sounds
was
about right.
22. Yeah, anyway, Get Out was 2017. I was just so excited that he was the one doing it. I knew he would be great at it because he's got a background in television and he's got the twisted sense of humor, but he also just knows how to really like deliver social commentary wrapped up in popular entertainment.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of expectations.
See, I'm almost in every way coming in from the opposite end from you. So, in Japan, Twilight Zone's really not a thing. I've mentioned it before, but the Tower of
Mhm.
Terror we have is not the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. It's a very
It's
good
just
Tower of Terror, but it's not the Twilight Zone anymore. It's
it's
something
wild
else.
to me.
Right. So, and I came in on, having watched a bunch of peeling Key and Peele clips on YouTube, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm not sure if I've actually sat down and just watched the show to be honest, but
I
I've
don't
seen.
think so either. I've everything I've watched, and I have seen many at this point that are just brilliant. It's always been from YouTube.
Yeah, and but And when I started this podcast, I think that's about the time I realized this show existed because I'm starting to do my research. I'm like, oh my God, there's a recent like I didn't realize just because I have kind of a filter of what I see on the internet being in a different
Sure.
country. And I have not seen any of his movies. One of the big reasons is because once I started this podcast, I was like, we're going to get to this eventually, and it'll be fun if I watch them fresh when we do it. So after
Hmm.
we do these episodes, we will be doing the movies, but I have seen zero of them so far. I know I should see
Okay.
Get Out. I know I should see Up. Up. I've seen Up. Us, but I'm like, I'll do it fresh. Once you start podcasting a bunch of media, you're like, well, I'm gonna watch that in 3 years' time. So why would I watch it now?
Yeah, it's like mind blowing to me how like far in the future you've. It's almost like a Twilight Zone in itself. The planning you're doing for this show. You're like, okay, that'll be in 2027.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
okay,
exactly. I'm
man.
like, I'll be watching Get Out in mid. Well, actually, it'll be like mid 26 now. This is only a 20 episode series, so it won't take
Right.
that long to get through.
No,
Um,
that's great though.
but the one thing, the key for me, the key, not the appeal. Geez, I'm gonna break my mind. Um, the sketch that really made me think, oh, this guy can do the Twilight Zone was the Turbulence sketch from Key and Peele,
Mhm.
which
Yeah,
I was like, this is, I mean, it's funnier than most Twilight Zones because it's a comedy show, but I was like,
right.
this has all the beats of the Twilight Zone in it, you know?
Well, you could by that sketch, you could tell that he like is a fan. You could tell that he knows like the formula.
Right. And let's get into a little bit. I guess the other thing we should mention is he is kind of I mean, he's not really the showrunner here. It's not quite a Rod Serling situation, which we should, that just since we've only done the original Twilight Zone,
Hmm.
um, he's not quite as much in the driver's seat, it seems. So you love it
No.
or hate it, you can only attribute so much.
Yeah, and people do hate him, but there's I don't think it has anything to do with the Twilight Zone. We may get into that, we may not.
Oh, is there Peel hate? I didn't know. I thought my parents like him, so I assumed
Oh,
everybody
that's
liked him.
good. That's good. Yeah, no, he's not well liked uh amongst the contingent of like racist horror fans, I guess.
Okay,
Um,
well, get
I would, yeah, we can get into that later, but there's entire things that have become famous because they're the antithesis of what he's doing with horror and science fiction.
okay. Let's get into a bit of the trivia. The original air date of this was April 1st, 2019. April Fools. I wonder if a lot of people didn't watch it because they thought it was a joke that day. Maybe
I
they,
wonder if a lot of people are a joke, period.
yeah. Because there's been things when it's like, oh, this premieres on April 1st. I'm like, does it? Although that is New Year, that's the real New Year in Japan. I mean, we celebrate New Year's when you guys do, but when school businesses, when all everything turns over, it's April. So
Wow,
April Fools, you got a new
I did not
job.
know.
That's how it works. Alex Rubens wrote the script. He is a carryover from Key and Peele, and he has also written for Rick and Morty and Community. Rubens excuse me. Yeah, he also co-wrote the film Keanu with Jordan Peele. Owen Harris directed. He has mostly directed British television. For our purposes, I guess 3 episodes of Black Mirror stick out the most on his filmography.
There you go.
Kumali Nanjiani played Samir Wasan. He had been a regular on Silicon Valley and co-wrote and starred in the film The Big Sick. He received an Emmy nomination for this role and got another nom in 2023 for Welcome to Chippendales. I don't know what that is, but it probably involves male dancing. I don't know.
Yeah, this is a series, comedy series.
Reina was played by Amara Karan. This is one of her most notable on-screen credits, but she got her start in 2007's The Darjeeling Limited and showed up in Doctor Who's season 6 episode The God Complex. I feel like Darjeeling Limited is somewhat underrated. How do you feel about that movie?
No, I liked it. I saw it. I'm on again, off again with Wes Anderson because some of them just tend to follow like a similar. Once he got that kind of same look to all his stuff and kind of same beats with the stories and characters.
That said, one of my favorites of his is Asteroid City, which is his last one. I guess there's a new one now. So yeah. And
Yeah, I saw asteroids too.
anyway, I always like Darjeeling because my father's short plot description of that one. It's about three perfect assholes.
That is true.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that kind of works. That kind of like made the movie even better for me. So.
Hmm.
Diara Kilpatrick played Dee Dee Scott. She was a regular on the 2020 Perry Mason and is currently the creator, producer, and star of Diara from Detroit. You know, I came into the show thinking I wasn't going to be doing Perry Mason credits anymore, but alas,
Yep.
that's wrong.
Nope.
J.C. Wheeler was played by Tracy Morgan. Come on, you know this guy. That's actually my trivia on him. Should I add anything else?
Tracy Morgan, I mean, he's Saturday Night Live alumni.
Yeah, 30 Rock. I mean, that's also the
Hmm.
same building, I guess. But yeah, I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's one of those times. I don't know. It's just also his vibe. It seems like that's the correct trivia for him. Come on, you
Well,
know this
sir.
guy. Yeah. Um. Anyway, yeah, I guess you have on your chat now that opening narration. So for the first time in a while, we will get a Twilight Zone opening narration.
Yeah, I do have to turn the camera in order to do this. It won't display the chat
Mostly
normally.
audio podcast. Most people probably don't care.
Okay. Here we go. Oh, I don't need to do the teeth because this isn't Serling anymore. All right.
We'll get you
Samir
in like
Wasan.
Henry at some point.
At some point, yeah. Then we'll get to do it. And I can grease my hair up, I guess, when I do it. Samir Wasan is an artist of great principle, a man who refuses to compromise his beliefs for a cheap joke. But tonight, he felt the rush of the limelight for the first time. Now, he'll have to decide what really matters to him when the laughter stops and how much he's willing to give to the Twilight Zone.
All right. So how do you feel about this presentation of narration? It fits. The camera pans over. It works. Um, but
It's
we
10
are looking.
minutes into the show.
It's pretty well. Yeah, that we're going to talk about the length of the show a bit. It's 10 minutes in the show, but when we had those 45-minute Twilight, those season four Twilight zones, did they the 50-minute ones? I mean, this is like a season four of the original, right? Basically.
That's what I'd compare it to you.
Yeah. So I think sometimes those took a while to get to the narration too, because it is sometimes you wonder, like when it takes forever to get to the opening, like you're watching a movie and like 30 minutes in. My favorite is when they put the title on like at the end of the movie and it had not previously been on screen at any point. That's always exciting.
Yeah, yeah, that's something that's usually reserved for like short films. I tend to do that sometimes.
Um, One thing though, I was thinking, especially watching it last night, because I haven't watched the series. I've seen about five, six episodes in the past, but I haven't watched any of them for the past 3 years. Again, for the aforementioned, I know I'm getting to it on the podcast. I have
Mhm.
watched a fair amount of the Key and Peele sketches, and it's a little hard not to want to giggle. Just like yeah, I've seen this face do like funny things, and now he's not doing something funny. But there are people trying to make you laugh in here, so.
Yeah, no, it's a nice step from one thing to the other in terms of Jordan Peele on television, and Kumail Nanjiani, of course, is known for doing um, like comedies, and he talked about The Big Sick. Well, I think his character was a comedian in that. I can't remember.
Yeah. I mean one of the pluses on this episode I think is actually when you get down to it, there's nothing funny about it. None of his jokes are funny. The best joke he has is the Second Amendment one, which, fails every time because that's also not a good joke. It sounds like, George Carlin mumbling in his sleep maybe.
Yeah, but
He hasn't fully woken up yet.
I did think of Carlin now that you mention it when watching this because well, do we want to wait to give away what the whole like spin on this
I
comedian story?
assume people would probably watch this before listening. And if not, hey,
Okay.
here's your warning.
Yeah, okay. So Carlin has a classic bit, and I don't remember what album it's on. I want to say, and it's weird because sometimes the album and then the corresponding cable TV special had two different names. But I want to say this is on Place for My Stuff, the album. And the bit is called Death and Dying. And he talks about the violent language of comedy. He's like, he talks about gags, punchlines, and then when he's like, I killed tonight. I'm gonna knock him dead. And then the last thing he says is laugh. I thought I'd die. And so it was just funny to me that you mentioned his name because I remember when watching this thinking about the death and dying from George Carlin because the comedian is one who causes people to die or go to the Twilight Zone, I guess, but they definitely disappear.
Well, I was also thinking just career trajectories. Both him and Richard Pryor would show up on TV in the 60s and be nice and presentable for, middle America, so to speak. And both of them were like, hey, actually, we want to start talking about the Second Amendment. I mean,
Yes.
notoriously, those later, especially those later George Carlin albums, he goes 10 minutes without telling a joke because he's on a perfect rant.
No, no, his last well not his last one, but definitely the three or four in between, I'd say Jamming in New York and It's Bad for You were like mostly rants. And he was like he'd go, time for a little random anger. And he would, just proceed to just lash out with his just razor sharp precision. And so, yeah, I did enjoy um the characters. Samir was his name. I was with him on that Second Amendment bit. I thought it was
Oh, of
great.
course. Here's the thing. I think what this episode really puts out is he's got the heart until he gets kind of corrupted by the Twilight Zone. He seems like an okay guy, but he really doesn't have the talent. I mean, he never tells a funny joke on stage, even when people are laughing, because that's the supernatural stuff going on, right?
True. Yeah, yeah, and it's it
I mean,
I
his
don't
jokes are
know.
basically, look at that guy, he's got a big nose, and everyone's roaring with laughter. That's like the best he can do?
Yeah, and people are laughing at stuff that ordinarily wouldn't. Like I think that's part of the conceit of this is that he had some talent, um, but it wasn't maybe necessarily the that that type of stand up in that type of environment, the big club. Because I don't know where they're seeing comedy, but it's almost like a theater where not a comedy club. But they they make the jokes are that these aren't good jokes. That's the whole thing. If you want to succeed, you have to cater to the lowest common denominator, you
Because
know.
Dee Dee Scott's supposed to be funny, but we only hear her say about like the last 3 seconds of her act, which is just like, you know, look at my vagina. We didn't hear
Yeah.
anything before that. Like, but the
It's
thought the
true,
idea
but
is her comedy is probably somewhat funny, right?
well, because she as a person is funny. I mean, that character, all of her interactions with other people, she's just really witty, you know. And he's not quite like that as a guy. He's a little bit more kind of I don't know, introverted in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people are usually like, comedians have to be damaged in some way, but maybe he's damaged in the wrong way. Maybe he should be writing, essays for the Atlantic or something instead.
I don't know, but he seems to just get on board with, this newfound power because I'm sure that you noticed right away that this is a classic Twilight Zone device. Somebody that's just a regular guy gets some sort of power and then lives to regret it as he goes kind of power hungry with it for a while.
Right. I am looking at the name J.C. Wheeler because, in the original series, we just get bashed on the head. It's like Dr. Acula, things like that. So in this one, I'm just like J.C. Wheeler. I mean, it makes me think of Jesus Christ, right? But then Wheeler and also this guy's a devil. So
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Tracy Morgan, and I want to mention how great he is in a non-comedic role. I mean, he is stone cold. He is very, very good at playing like sinister. So his character in this is like a really famous comedian. And like you said earlier, they're known for having a lot of darkness within them. They're known for being damaged, and a lot of the great ones, maybe the most in that case. But Tracy's just, I don't know what he was drawing from, but he was so, so great in this. What
I
did you
think
think of his acting?
Oh, I thought it was great, but I think it does depend on us knowing who he is because Tracy Morgan is usually a funny, goofy guy. So you're like, okay, this guy is a really famous comedian, even though he's super dark on screen in this. And he's
Yeah, so you're saying like
presented as
in,
a comedian. It's like, here's a funny guy being dead serious and creepy. And
yeah.
it's,
So in 40, 50 years, it's not going to work, or you think it still will?
Oh, I think it will. I actually, there are a lot of things in this that I'm like, it's not quite as good as the '60s. But I think as far as him being the supernatural wheeler dealer, I think this
Mhm.
is pretty top flight. This is about as good as it gets. So
Yeah.
50
Well,
years
there you
after,
just hit on the meaning of his name.
right? Oh, okay. There we go. Did I?
Wheeler dealer.
Oh, okay. Ah, right, right. Nah, I don't like that. I don't like that.
I'm really not looking too much into it as far as that goes. I was impressed that they started out not trying to be like so modern that Peele's audiences would be looking for necessarily some kind of sharp thing, but also people that had no idea who Jordan Peele was, but are fans of the Twilight Zone are going to recognize Twilight Zone immediately based on this type of plot. So much so that they may think, have I seen this before? Because some of the episodes are remakes of old episodes.
This one is not a full remake, but it is a light, kind of, I would say like a light remake of one of the '80s ones. Hold on, I can bring up the name in a moment. Again, well, as audiences know, I had to unscrew my computer and I lost most of my tabs. Take My Life, Please.
Oh,
Um, so will we getting to that eventually? That's at the middle of the spiral, the Twilight
okay,
Zone
those are the
spiral of
ones
plot
I'm
lines.
least familiar with, the 80s ones.
See, probably seen most of them, but I saw them in the '80s, early '90s. Don't remember a lot of them, or just
Hmm.
vaguely remember, images that burned into my soul and wake me up at 3 a.m., that sort of thing. Um,
Yeah.
uh, I'm just looking at this is just according to Wiki, just mentioning that Samira's story appears to take a large influence from Death Note, which is very popular. I
Hmm.
mean, in Japan, of course, very popular, but I've never really done so much Death Note. Yeah, they made live action movies for it and everything. So,
Hmm. Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
but I don't know if that was a direct influence here or not, but hey, maybe it was. Um, I guess we do have to talk about the length of this though, because you do
Hmm.
come away thinking if you edited this down to the 25-minute thing, it would be like probably better. I think this is one you could edit down. What do you think?
I do because, when you're dealing with long form TV, you're going like, okay, is this a mini series? Is this a story that could be given another half hour or 20 minutes to be a feature length? Or, are we still telling like episodic television, or does it need to be standalone? And I agree with you. I think it could have been shorter, these episodes. Um, you know, Jordan Peele is coming off of being a television producer to a feature film producer. And so each one of these feels almost like a feature film, you know, um, as a result, because of how long they are. But you're like, but there's just these few characters and they could have wrapped this up. I get it. So yeah, I do think it could be tightened up.
That was one thing, and when we get to Night Gallery in the '80s zone, and I don't know if the Forrest Whitaker one does this or not, but I know that Night Gallery in the '80s one will often have like they'll pair up episodes for an hour block, so you'll have like
Mhm.
two equal length ones. Notoriously, there's one where you actually get like a 10-minute episode, which is one of my bigger stresses for the future. What am I going to do when we get to that one?
Oh,
Uh, so there's like a
have a
10 minute.
shorter episode.
Yeah, it's like a 10-minute episode paired with like a 40-minute episode,
Mhm.
So
It's either
I
that or do
wonder,
them together.
yeah, I wonder if this would have benefited a bit from that structure. And then it would be like, well, because I do think content wise, maybe that's in the contract with HBO or something, like you need to hit like a certain amount of time, you
I'm
know?
sure it was. I'm sure it was because otherwise there's no real reason to do it. Because if you want to think of the times when the comedian is spinning its wheels, what are some sections where you're just like, okay, we're belaboring the point?
Um, I mean, when Devin is his nephew is erased from existence, he spends like almost 5 minutes looking for the clues of his dog cat. Like it's just
Hmm.
he's gone and we can just move on. That's where
Yeah.
you easily trim some time.
Yeah, because the audience is, especially a Twilight Zone audience, is going to know it's gone, because um, Wheeler doesn't come out and say things are going to start going away because there's a trade-off here. But he kind of does. He says enough to where you're like, okay, there's gonna be a loss for the gains. Like the final sentence that he says to him.
You can remove characters. De'Ara Kilpatrick was great as Dee Dee Scott, but you could remove that character completely and probably not change the story much. I mean, because there's that little like rivalry, like friendly rivalry, and then he weaponizes it right at the end. But
Right, but that's almost like a B plot, and you
right.
don't need that for episodes. Like, you know what I mean? Not for something that's going to be self-contained.
And I don't think we need David Kendall, and we don't need his girlfriend Raina's life changing from lawyer to like waitress or whatever. Like you can actually cut all that stuff. Was it done well? Was it shot well? Was it written fine? It was, but Twilight Zone is a certain thing, and adding those things does dilute it a little bit, as we
Oh
saw in the
yeah.
season 4 episodes from the original series.
Yeah, I mean, TV is just about brevity back then, you know? And so this one just sort of, I think it's modern sensibility and the fact that it's aware of being on cable rather than network TV. Just, yeah, it's a lot of that air gets kind of sucked into it.
That said, I feel like a lot of it really could just be trimming. I think you could edit this down to like what you have now. You could edit down to 25 minutes, and I wonder if anyone's tried that. It would be interesting to watch 25-minute cuts of some of these.
I don't know because I did love when she turns around and she's in the waitress thing. That's like that's a great moment. But when we're talking about just this very basic Twilight Zone classic type of a plot, you know what I mean? What are we
Yeah.
doing at
I,
a
I
certain
guess
point?
here's the point. Like it's got this whole thing. He makes fun of someone, they vanish from existence, which is that's
Hmm.
the main part of the show, and that's great.
Yeah,
It starts to get into butterfly effect stuff, which is interesting. You and I went to see that movie, I think, and I was entertaining. I think it's a
yeah.
good schlocky movie, but you know,
Well, it was
um,
it was kind of Twilight Zone, you know?
yes, but the second half of this episode really starts to focus on that, and you could totally hatchet that stuff out of here. Hell, save it for a
Yeah,
different episode.
yeah. I mean, it's three-act structure, is three-act structure. Whether you're in a 10-minute show or a feature-length movie, you've got who is it, what happens to them, and how do they resolve that?
Mm.
And so all you got to do is answer those questions. You know.
And just to be clear, this second time I've seen the episode, I remember liking it the first time. I liked it this time. It was kind of like when I started thinking about what I'm going to say for the podcast. Like, actually, I have to start thinking about in terms of that, and
Mhm.
and that would have been like a prop. Yeah, an interesting what if. And also, it's just you have to talk about the state of television today. One of my I don't watch a ton of TV, but I really loved watching, Star Trek Lower Decks because it's like I get like a, 23-minute blast. I always know it's going to be 23 minutes, if I'm going to sleep, I can watch this and then fall asleep. It's not too long.
Yeah, the streaming age has brought about just a lot of stuff that kind of takes a while to get where it's going, or they don't seem to know where they're going and figuring it out as they go along. And that's why I don't do I'll do a mini series, but not typically episodic, for that reason. But you're going to find as this series goes, some of them benefit from this format and some of them don't. And I'm guessing that's probably going to be something we touch on every time.
Yeah, and that's what we found in season 4 of the original show. So
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
just realizing, oh, we have to start bringing it up again, and I
Hmm.
might be hitting it a little harder this time just because it's the first time for this show. So,
Yeah.
let's take. Well, actually, I want to start my questions a little early. I was like, let's go through his serial killer list, but it makes more sense to do that in the deserve question, right?
Yeah.
So we're just gonna make that second question a big one today. Uh,
Okay.
do you want to include them in the Twilight Zone? Because the first question, of course, is always who in this episode goes into the Twilight Zone. You like to look at the prologue, and it's clear in the prologue that Samir Wasan is well, he's giving to the Twilight Zone. Is he in the
Yeah.
Twilight Zone?
Yeah, this is the Twilight Zone as something that consumes. And forever I'll be thinking of that episode where we see the Twilight Zone in the classic series. And so every time I imagine someone disappears in the comedian, I imagine them going there.
Yeah, or to the cornfield? Yeah.
Back
So
to the cornfield, aka the Twilight Zone.
so does. Okay, here's my question though. So we'll say those
Cornfield.
people went to the Twilight Zone. Does Samir go to the Twilight Zone when he makes a deal with JC Wheeler? Or does he go to the Twilight Zone when he vanishes?
It's a good question. I would assume he goes where everybody else did, which was the Twilight Zone, because it was feeding the Twilight Zone. However, if he enters immediately upon making the deal, and all of this is taking place in the Twilight Zone rather than reality, um, we got to go back to that initial um, narration and see if it fits.
Well, I do want to come up with the idea that maybe I want to go with him disappearing as entering the Twilight Zone, and a line J.C. Wheeler tells him the second time he meets him is
Yeah.
weaponize it. So I'm like, oh, he's weaponizing the Twilight Zone. He's giving to a Twilight Zone. He's doing like black magic
Hmm.
until it. And he turns it on himself in the end as a. I guess we get the happy ending where everyone else has reappeared except for him. But yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's I guess that's why they baked in the butterfly effect thing. Okay, he's gone, so everything he did is erased.
Yeah, or Wheeler's just feeding the Twilight Zone.
I feel like Wheeler is of the Twilight Zone, or did he make a deal with the higher up? That's where you get to the whole like, there's the conspiracy theory. To be a star, you have to make nasty deals and sacrifice people.
Yeah, how did he get to where he's because also another trope is passing it along to someone, this a curse.
Right.
And so there was at one point where I can remember watching it thinking like when he and his other comedian friend realized that they're both there's a talent scout there for some TV show or something like that. Um there was when I thought they were having this discussion about, whoever goes, it's fine or whatever. Um, that he would then pass it to her, and then she would take him out. You know.
That could have been another way to end this. So yeah, he turns on himself. That is a distinction, though. It's like, well, you didn't murder them because they don't exist and they never existed.
Yeah,
Should he
yeah.
forget about them too once they disappear? That, of course, then you don't have a narrative to really work with anymore if you do that.
Nope,
But
no, and it has to. That's the whole thing is that the audience needs to be hooked into the main character, no matter what they're doing, and so they're along for the ride. So they know these people existed, so he might as well.
right. So if you're really transmogrifying reality, you forget too, For
Yeah.
another Star Trek reference, yesterday's Enterprise. Nobody remember. That's one of those ones where you're like, that was a great episode, but it doesn't. Well, they made it matter later with stuff, but you're like, well, but nobody remembers that happening. That will not influence anything that happens in the future because they don't remember it. So so that is
Yeah.
why Samir has to remember this, and I get it. I'm just logistically being like, well, he should also not remember.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, well, let's get to who deserves what. Is Samir's final act of making himself disappear and everyone come back, does that redeem him? Does he deserve to head to the Twilight Zone in the end? I guess everyone else comes back from the Twilight Zone. That's a rarity.
Yeah, but you would start to think, okay, everyone went to the Twilight Zone. It sucks. You know what I'm saying? Because he's talking about all these like bullies and rapists and all of these other like terrible people, someone a murderer. And so you're thinking, okay, well, is the Twilight Zone a place to be banished to?
That's why
You
I said the
know?
cornfield. I think it's more of a banishment in that case.
Yeah, yeah,
He kind of
exactly.
he doesn't have like the power as trippy as that kid does, right?
No.
Billy or whatever his name is. But he kind of has a similar power. You
He
piss him off,
does.
he'll send you to the Twilight Zone with his
Oh
jokes.
yeah. When he's like scanning the audience looking for his next target, I mean, they're not like being subtle about what this guy is doing,
But they
and
don't
it's
have the fear of him. That's a difference between this and It's a
yeah.
Good Life. Like nobody fears him because they don't know about this and they don't know what happens because everyone forgets. And It's a
Yeah,
Good Life, they remember when someone disappears.
oh, they do. They really do. And it's great that they do, right? It's a good thing. So no, here, the only people that know about this are the ones that went. And so it's almost like hell or something.
Well, let's
But
leave out all the rapists and bullies, and let's talk about the Devin. Well, the dog. I mean that
the
was an
dog and the
accident.
kid,
He didn't
the
know what the
dog was an
dog.
accident.
The
Kid
dog was
was
an accident, half accident.
yeah,
Like he felt pretty bad about that one for sure. I don't think
right.
he felt too bad once he disappeared bullies and rapists, but
Hmm.
the kid, I think he kind of maybe half. new. But he was just like, oh, people are laughing at this. They like it. Okay. Maybe we'll give him like a half pass on that. Or I mean, you can't really expect that's what's happening, you know?
True, but him, the fact that the true innocents are gone, children and animals. Um, I think it lets people know this guy is, if he'll do that, then get ready for anything, and it puts you in a very like unsafe place. So I understand why they did it in the order that they did.
How about the college professor that his girlfriend may or may not, probably not, is cheating with?
Oh gosh. I didn't
That
know
guy
what was
did.
going to happen. Yeah, I didn't know who was going to go until he named him,
I
you
mean, my
know.
first note when he shows up is that smug guy is a mark. Is he cucking Samir? Which I actually I don't think he was. You know.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. It's just paranoia. But he's looking for anything, and his morals become further and further compromised in order to feed that this the laughter of the things that the comedian craves.
Although you were mentioning and like just again the insult comedy and one of the George what's the late '80s George Carlin album? You mentioned it earlier, I think. Anyway, he comes out of the gate with that with 5 minutes of extremely. He's like, you guys like topical humor, so he's already kind of making fun of it, and then proceeds
Yeah.
to make fun of five politicians that 80% of the people in the U.S. have probably forgotten existed anyway.
Yeah, that's the one thing about the topical stuff is it doesn't land as well with me as just the classic bits that are just about the human condition. But that's a thing that's also mentioned in this episode is you hear um, his character, Samir, is defending kind of what he does, thinking, isn't comedy about this and this?
But his comedy really is just like he's a doo doo head. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
what is it? George Carlin's got at least better jokes with that. Like one of them's got a broken finger and the other one's getting surgery on his asshole. You know that, or I didn't say it
yeah,
quite right, but yeah,
yeah. I
like it's more
want to
creative.
say,
You can giggle at that. Where
yeah, that one
Samir's
is
comedy is not funny at all. Like never funny. Again, the
that's
funniest thing
either,
is his Second Amendment joke.
yeah, yeah. I can see the cover of that album, but I can't remember because I don't want to see it was What Am I Doing in New Jersey, then Jamming in New York.
It's one of
Um,
those. People can go
well,
check it out.
it's
If you need to listen to two George Carlin albums, that's no problem. There's better bits after that. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
That's not what this show's about, damn it.
Dee Dee Scott is a pretty graceful rival. She's definitely like, we are competing, but she
Hmm.
gets disappeared. He weaponizes it like JC Wheeler tells him to do. So
Hmm.
I guess like that seemed like extremely wrong because she was like handling that situation like pretty well without just like backing down or something.
It is, yeah, and you'll see the characters of color. Not that Kumail Nanjiani, the actor, is not, but you'll see that Peele's handling of characters of color is different than like another, like in years past, what would happen to some. Like he's acutely aware of black people dying first, things like this, from popular entertainment of decades past. And so I think the fact that they made her, even though she had a really like, I wouldn't say like hard edged sense of humor, was definitely like kind of like insult humor a bit, to show that she's actually kind and it was just an act. That she's not carrying that over into real life, I think was an important thing to show.
Yeah. So I was just like, she definitely did not deserve that. That's him weaponizing it the most. I
Yeah.
get, well, the
Yeah.
college professor as well. So,
Yeah. No, he's the one who deserved it because, he was the one who was, changing things at the expense of other people.
but hey, one way to deal with hecklers, I guess. Hey, give me your name. Yeah, don't do that, man. That is interesting. He has to use the name for it to work. And you can only do it once, right? Because
Hmm.
I teaching, I used to like be like, I have to have a different bit for my next class. I'm like, why? None of them were in the first class, you know?
Yeah, they don't know. No, it's like I'm glad that you relate to it in that way because it is a performance in a way. Um, but no, also using the names gives suspense to the moments where like, is he gonna say it? Is he gonna, who's he gonna do? So
Mm.
it Yeah, it all kind of works for me. And again, I'm happy with how well this one aligns with Twilight Zone because not all of them do in terms of like what the classic setup would be.
Mm.
But he also gets in his stuff because I mean this is modern. This is a modern scenario here.
But I'm thinking even the best stand-up comedians, if you see them one year and you come back the next year and they always write new material and stuff, but they're gonna have half of the same stuff the next year, you know?
Oh, it depends on the comedian. I mean,
I
Carlin
mean, some
always
people,
likes to
yeah, he,
have a completely new hour, but
well,
that's
yeah,
just
he
an
wanted to do a
hour.
comedy special, right? So,
Yeah, but if you saw him, like some of these comics would have, like I would go see their shows versus seeing them on TV, and the show would be like double as long, and you would hear those things that the audience would come to see because they do want to hear, classic bits.
right, right. I
So
mean, it's like you go see Aerosmith. They got to play Dream On, man. I don't know why
yeah,
that
yeah.
was my example, but
No, but people know. I mean, that's what if they didn't?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like they suck.
So I am like that is like maybe I guess they're saying not every comedian has it. Maybe JC Wheeler always has to do new bits, and now Samir Rasan always has to do new bits. He can't rely on the
Mhm.
old ones ever. They will only work once
Yeah,
because
and
he's
I don't know how
feeding
this
babies to
lands for
Moloch.
people. Yeah, no, true. I don't know how this lands
And
for people that actually know more inside stuff about television writing, stand-up comedy writing, how this might ring for somebody like that versus us who are just consumers of it.
mm. Well, that's the last thing we should talk about. We actually do make a fair amount of content, and it's I mean, yeah, I mean, we used to play in a band, and what we went to the talent agency once, and maybe what they said if we said yes, maybe that was us, maybe that was JC Wheeler for us. We don't know. It was
We
probably
don't know
enough.
because my memory of that was we were told that we could get into a sort of networking situation or event, and there was a cost involved in getting into that. And we were children, people. We were children. Dan was probably 18, but the rest of us were not. And so just them saying that versus somebody who's like A&R coming out to see bands that have a buzz, in the scene. That's so radically different. Those things like pay to play almost.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I mean, I think that's why we don't know the inside of the people who wrote the episode. I'm not saying they had to make a deal with the devil. They're just probably, just for I think for you and I, we're just like, hey, if it's not fun, we don't want to do it, you know?
Oh God, that's been my whole thing. That's been my whole thing. And every time it stopped being fun was when I stopped, you know? Because what are you doing?
Because this becomes existential dread for him once he starts, right? Like I mean, people are laughing, but he's not having fun in this episode. People are
No, he's not.
disappearing, and that's got to be disturbing.
Yeah, it's ill-gotten gains. If you've got to do this to have it, what is it? Is it worth it?
Uh, let's put this one on the trip. I think we got through all the deserved questions. Did I miss anybody?
Mhm. Nah. No, there's not really too many main characters in this, and a lot of them get lumped together.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here saying let's cut two of them to make a 25-minute episode. But you that there's very good Twilight Zone episodes with one, two, or three actors, so
Mhm.
you can do it.
Yeah.
Tripometer 0 to 5, 5 being very trippy, 0 not being trippy at all. Sorry, I felt like I just have to say that again because it's been a while. It didn't really make sense on those
Always.
Serling movies.
Yeah, no. No, and that's always a good reminder for me. For me, I'm gonna go like maybe a 2.5 to 3. And I'm going midway simply because the idea of people just disappearing like they'd never existed is something like out of Scrooge, maybe, a Christmas Carol, to
Mm.
where, it's like if you'd never, it'll be as if you'd never, here's life if you'd never been born. And so this kind of concept is wild for people to get to see that. And so for you to have a memory, but no one else does, it's just it will never be like run of the mill to me. It's a psych out. I think it is trippy, that concept.
See, I'm going to 4 because I also find it that the concept you're mentioning, and as much as I was like, I would trim this episode a lot. The all that butterfly effect stuff does make it trippier. Maybe not necessarily better. Like again, I enjoyed that stuff. It was trippy. I'm just saying here, how can you really make this a stripped down, honed, Twilight Zone?
Yeah, I think if they'd showed people like disappearing, then I'd
I
maybe
don't
go for
see. I think it's
higher.
pretty trippy that there's no special effects. Just up, they're just not there anymore.
Yeah.
For me, that actually is trippy. So, I don't want to see him turn into, Spider-Man dust like in Infinity War or something. There's a spoiler that I can use, right? That's not a
Uh,
spoiler anymore. Everyone knows this.
oh my God, yeah, you're talking like God, almost 10 years ago now.
Yeah. Although the one thing I'm thinking is this is the first Twilight Zone I've done for several months. I've been doing the Rod Serling movies, and none of those were particularly trippy. The trippiest one
No,
was like 7 Days in May, just because it had political intrigue, and that's a stretch, right? So it
that
is
is a
like it is the first time in a while that I don't even know if that's the highest one I gave on that one, but yeah, it's been a while since I've watched something. I've done lots of Serling recently. I haven't done this genre recently, and I almost wonder if that's bumping up my score a little bit. Just like finally, I can give something higher in like a two.
I don't know, but we're gonna hit moments in as this goes, and I say we, meaning I know you're gonna have other guests besides me, but you're gonna have the things are just gonna have like varying degrees of that stuff. And so what you're saying is probably a little bit of it, but it's mostly because this was just an introductory. Welcome to the 2019 Twilight Zone.
Yeah, if
I
anyone's
think it's
curious, I've only seen about 5 episodes of these, but I have replayed probably like 3 or 4 times. That's one that definitely got my attention. So,
Oh God, that was I remember because with social media and everything, people were talking about, did you see Twilight Zone this week? And talking about, and Replay was one of the ones that there was the most chatter about afterward.
okay, well, we'll get to that soon. So that's episode 3. So, people don't have to hold their breath too hard. Anything else you want to throw out on the comedian?
Not really. I haven't gone back to like rewatching episodes of this the way I do with the classic one. And I think most of it is because the classic one is the one that was like part of my actual family life. You know what I mean? My upbringing. And so I just kind of tend toward those stories. But also I tend toward those stories because of how short they are. I'm a consumer and maker of short form storytelling,
And there is
and
something to the Twilight Zone being in black and white that
oh
somehow
gosh,
there's a
yeah.
certain, and we're not doing it again. Even Night Gallery is going to be in color, but that
hmm
austere look of the original show
I
just
do that
adds a
even
certain something.
even with Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein that came out on Netflix a couple weeks ago. I watched it in color the first time, but then I cut the color off and watched it in black and white because I do that with Coppola's Dracula. It's just for some reason there is I make that association.
Oh,
I
I
don't
wouldn't do the Coppola's Dracula. I like the gloopy colors in that one, so I could see
know.
doing the Frankenstein. But yeah,
It
but I mean,
it
like the Mad Max, they did like the desaturated. I mean, there's a lot of
mhm.
movies. Godzilla -1, they
Oh my
did
gosh,
in black and white.
that was such a gorgeous experience. I'm glad that went to the theaters, and I like that black and chrome. Um, Logan Noir. I don't know that it works so great.
Yeah. So I fully understand it's 2019. We're making a new Twilight, so we're not doing it in black and white, you know?
No,
So,
no,
especially when the preceding versions were also not in black and white. But that is, I mean, that's going to be that. We'll see. I don't think that's going to be a permanent bugaboo. I got to say at least once, right?
yeah, no. And I'm more likely to return to Peele's feature films because that was my introduction to what he did properly. And you're probably gonna like us. You're gonna like Nope probably best,
No,
but
we'll see.
I just because it's the one that goes stronger into the science fiction, but maybe I'm wrong and us or Get Out might be. It's the most Twilight Zone-y. No, it's not either. I think Us is okay. We'll wait.
It's a discussion that's definitely coming after we do these 20 episodes. So,
Okay.
I guess tell people what's up with you. It's probably December now.
Okay. Well, right now, my friends and I, who make movies here in Athens, and we call ourselves Gonzoriffic, I've been telling them people that's just the name of our band. Just instead of, short songs, we make short films. But we do have a feature-length movie called 119.mp4, and that is available on Tubi with commercial interruptions. So you can get that, if you're someone who visits America's Video Store. And I also have my book is available on Amazon. It's called Everybodies, Everybodies, and they've hidden it because someone has considered nude photography to be adult material or somehow pornographic, and so you have to specifically search for me in my book. And if you can't find it, there's a link on gonzoriffic.com.
All right. Over on my end, I do a lot of podcasting on media. Of course, this is Time Enough Podcast. You can support that over at Podcastio Podcastius on Patreon. If you're into this, you might like, we just finished doing a run through of the first two seasons of Severance over at In Prison. Another Severance podcast is the current title of that one. And yeah, hey, we did the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror over at Occult Disney. Listen to that sometime. So. Oh, Steve Gutenberg.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh man. No, I've been to the Hollywood Tower, which is I'm guessing what they based the design on.
Yeah. Well, you've been on the Twilight Zone Tower, Terry. Yeah, yeah, of course you have.
I would never go on that. Are you kidding me?
You can go.
No.
Oh, you can go on that? You don't want to get dropped?
No, I don't want to get.
You don't want to go through the fourth dimension room? You got to go. Oh man, drive
Yo, I'll
yourself
talk
down to
about it on a
Florida and get on
podcast.
the
I'll
Tower
watch
of
it on
Terror.
TV, but call me a lazy or incomplete Twilight Zone fan, but I'm just
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call Andrew Shearer a lazy Twilight Zone fan who doesn't know what he's talking about.
run it, whatever you need to do. Right now the only video game I play, Fortnite, they have it's currently they're doing a Simpsons season, so you can play as Homer and various characters. And when you play as Homer and you shoot another character, that one guy comes out and just goes and points where the other player got smoked.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop there.